Well, it seems to be a very interesting time at the excuse me, in the career of Kardashev. You've signed with Metal Blade fairly recently.
Mm.
How did this partnership come about?
Essentially, it was kind of wild. Essentially, we were reached out to by them, and it was actually a while ago. I want to say maybe summer of 2020. They reached out to us and they were like, "Hey, we heard the Bring of Shadows. We liked it, which we had released already at the time, and we just want to set up a meet and greet and just chit chat a little bit." And Nico and Sean and Alex and I, the other members of Kardashev, we were like, this is odd, because we were not actively looking for record labels at all, like in any way. And I don't even know if we'd ever sent anything to Metal Blade before, because early in, when bands are first starting, you set up your little press kits and email them off to inboxes everywhere. And then it just slowly developed from there. We had a couple meet and greets and things went well. We seemed to vibe well with the people we were talking to, and it was pretty cool.
Cool. And obviously, I would assume that they want a new full length coming relatively soon. It's been 6 years since your last one, so
it does feel like 6 years, doesn't it? It does feel like 6 years.
Yeah.
No, they do want a full length, and we are working on one. But the cool thing is they're really like relaxed. Working with them really feels like they want to help us do a good job. So it's not like, you better get this album out, February of 2022 or else. It's like, hey, what can we provide? What can we help with? And that's actually good motivation, because you don't feel like, you've got a whip at you. You feel more motivated. So we definitely are working on one, which is pretty fun. That's always exciting to do as well,
Cool. I mean, I think the thing with Metal Blade is that they sign bands and they know what they're getting into. And like you say, they heard Bearing of Shadows and they like Bearing of Shadows. So, they're not one of those labels that's going to sign you up going, "Oh, we like this EP, but can you sound like Behemoth or whatever?"
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Yeah.
And how's work progressing on the album so far?
So far, so good. I will say that it's a little bit slower than any of our other releases, because even as recently as the Bearing of Shadows, all of us had much more realistic schedules. But recently Nico, who is basically the whole rhythm section, he writes pretty much all the melody with help from Alex, our bassist, as well. And we also have input, but he does the majority of that. He's transitioned to being a full-time musician, which you think would give him more time to write, but he is having to balance a lot of revenue streams to make it work. So being on Twitch and everything like that. And then I've got the vocal coaching business, which takes up a lot of my time. So we definitely plug away a little bit at it each week, every Thursday. But it is a little slower than our previous releases. Also because it sounds a lot different. So sometimes we get writer's block. Like, we've never written this way. Like, where are we supposed to go next? But overall, I would say steady, just a little slower.
Okay, well, that's fine. Pretty good art takes time,
Yeah.
Looking back on Bearing of Shadows, how do you view that EP now? Do you think that's your best work to date, or is there anything you're dissatisfied with?
It's interesting. I will say that I feel like we really sort of started to figure out our sound with Peripety, and then the Almanac is really where it solidified, and then the Bearing of Shadows immediately deviated from it a little bit. I love the Bearing of Shadows, and I'm really proud of what we did, but its content is so dark that I find that I don't listen to it a whole lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think we nailed it, because so many people, they send us these messages and they're like, hey, I almost can't get through some of these songs because I can relate to a parent dying, or I can relate, as a father or a mother, hearing this song about a kid dying is too awful for me to handle. And that makes me think, number one, we did our job well, because we were trying to create an album that gives people this huge sense of catharsis. But number two, it's not an album that I think anybody, myself included, is just popping on for road trips. You know what I mean? So I really like it, but it's, I think, maybe a little less of a casual listen, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's an interesting piece of your puzzle to have, so to speak. You know, it shows the variety of not just the lyrical subjects, but the musical talent and where you venture to. Because Kardashev is a very difficult band to pigeonhole as it is, even with a relatively small catalog. You know, I mean, it's been labeled everything from progressive to death metal, deathcore. Like I say, it is a difficult style to nail down. How would you describe it?
So we're right there with you, being like, we don't know. You know, I think the best genre that we have ever come up with, we actually didn't come up with it. Somebody, and I can't remember who, on I think it was Instagram, called us death gaze, like shoegaze, but with death metal. And I don't know if it's shoegazy enough to really own that term, or I shouldn't say own, to use that term. You can't really own a genre, but I think death gaze is the closest approximation we've come up with. There's definitely, especially in the Bearing of Shadows, elements of like post metal and post rock that have come in. We were listening to a lot of at the time that we wrote the Bearing of Shadows, we were listening to a lot of like Halatar, which is more doomy. We were listening to Holy Fawn, which is our bassist's other band that he's in. That's very post rock. So yeah, I guess it's kind of a long-winded answer to say death gaze is the closest we've come up with or started to use, but it's not perfect. It's not perfect.
No, but again, you can't pigeonhole it, you know. As you mentioned before, the band has made like quite heavy use of Twitch and video game culture as a whole.
Yeah.
Obviously, Twitch is huge right now. There's people making a living off of playing Twitch, which is fucking bizarre to me. But do you feel having that kind of presence online is perhaps the best way to promote the band?
Yeah, 100% I do. You know, one thing that we've been doing for a long time, and Nico does most of our Twitch stuff. I make appearances every once in a while, but he really helms that. One thing that we've done is we've tried to be very interactive on social media, and you know, that's the thing where you'll always feel behind. Like I always feel behind, like replying to comments and stuff, but putting forth that effort. You know, a lot of bands, what they'll do is they'll post a music video and then step away from it, check the views, check the subscriptions, and be, you know, and that's fine. But we found that in having as close to as face-to-face interaction as you can, or personal interaction you can with people on the internet, not only, you know, helps you build a presence and build a brand, but it's a lot more fun, and you feel less, like, this might sound a little dramatic, but you feel less lonely in the process too. Like sometimes, you know, I can only speak from a vocalist perspective, but I'll be sitting here like listening to a section over and over and over again and being like, I don't know what the fuck to do here. Like, I don't know, like what on earth am I doing? And you can feel a little isolated. And so it's a lot of fun. You know, you come up with you come up with like kind of like longtime friends that are also fans of your music. That's really cool. And we leverage Discord a lot. There's a Cardivox Academy and a Kardashev Discord that are both pretty active, and we get a lot of interaction there too. Yeah.
Cool. You know, for some people watching this or what have you, this will be kind of like their introduction to Kardashev. Now, obviously, the name is a Russian name. It's derived from a Soviet scientist.
Yeah.
I was unsure whether it was the scientist himself or the Kardashev scale that you took your name from. And
Sure.
And beyond that, what was it about this man that made you think that, you know, he's worth naming a band after?
Yeah, you know, I think that's kind of funny. Sometimes I remember that the band is technically named after someone, and I'm like, huh, that's funky. Especially since, to like people listening, I don't know how common the last name Kardashev is in, you know, Russia or you know Russian speaking countries. But sometimes I wonder if people are over there, you know, seeing our band, because we know we've gotten some plays over there, and to them it's the equivalent of having a band called, like, you know, Jacobson You know what I mean? Or Smith, right? But yeah, so when we were starting, I mean, obviously the gent and spacey sci-fi band was a big thing at the time, and we were really into that. We've since moved away from it, but we still kind of have that. We'll forever be a space band, even when we're not a space band. People will call us a space band, which we're fine with, but it doesn't matter. It's totally okay. But you know, a lot of it was either like really sort of wild, not wild, but sort of out there, loose, like philosophy, like Alan Watts meets the solar system, or it was like space aliens are coming to eat humanity. And we were like not really wanting to do either of those things.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with them. We're down with both of those. Like, you know, you had Aversion's Crown and you had the Contortionists. Those were the two people doing those things, right?
Yeah.
But the Kardashev scale was a bit more like, granted, it's theoretical physics, right? It's theoretical science, and none of us are theoretical scientists or anything like that. But it was a little bit more grounded in like scientific principles, which we thought was kind of interesting. And it was a really positive view of humanity in the future. So it wasn't as broad or as intangible as philosophy, but also not as dark as you know, evil space overlords. And we kind of just got infatuated with this idea of like what humanity could potentially be. So I'd say it's more so named after the scale than the dude, but the dude may be a rad guy. He's still alive. If ever I meet him, I'll be like, yo, what's up, bro?
No, he died a couple of years ago.
Oh, did he? Well, that shows what I know. Sorry. Rest in peace, bro.
Pour one out for Kardashev.
Yeah, pour one out, exactly. We'll pour out some of that mead. There we go.
But it's definitely a fitting thing to name the band after, and it becomes more fitting over time, like you say, as you progress and as you evolve, you know, and to have like a positive connotation as well. It's great because I think Kardashev can and does go anywhere it wants. Yeah. Well, Mark, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me this evening, mate, or the afternoon where you are.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a little bit after 8 for you. I'm assuming. Yeah, for me it's just 12:18. So I got my whole day ahead of me, bro.
Look at you. I'm just gonna watch Trailer Park Boys.
Hey, that's a good show. Nothing. I've only seen like 2 episodes, but it's a hoot. So you'll definitely be in for a good time. Thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it. This was fast. It was fun though, and I appreciate you taking time to talk to little old me.
No problem, mate. No problem. Best of luck with the album as it comes along, and I hope that once all this craziness is over, you can make your way over to the UK.
That is the plan. We would love to do that for sure.
Good man.
All
the best. Now. Cool. Enjoy your day.
Yeah, thank you. You as well. Bye.
Bye now.